In episode 38, titled Set Clear Rules of Engagement, we open by putting a guardrail around testing so assurance never turns into an outage. Rules of Engagement, ROE, documents are the compact between assessors and operators that lets meaningful verification happen while production stays stable and people sleep at night. The best versions anticipate confusion before it appears. They say what can be touched, when it can be touched, who is watching, and how to stop safely if something wobbles. Think of the ROE as the flight plan for evidence gathering. When it is written with care and shared early, tests feel routine instead of risky, and findings reflect system truth rather than the chaos of uncoordinated probing. Start by defining the objectives with plain language, then state which techniques are in scope and which are explicitly prohibited. Objectives frame intent, validate control enforcement, observe monitoring accuracy, and measure incident response signaling without endangering availability or data integrity. Techniques in scope might include authenticated configuration polls, limited negative authentication attempts, segmentation verification with benign probes, and read-only policy exports. Prohibited actions should be unmistakable. No denial of service, no destructive payloads, no elevation attempts outside pre-authorized paths, and no testing on customer data. The hard lines matter because they prevent creative interpretations under pressure and give responders the confidence to let testing proceed without hovering over the kill switch. Name the systems, environments, tenants, and regions where testing is permitted, and do it with surgical precision. If only staging and a designated production subset are in scope, say exactly which account identifiers, virtual networks, clusters, or application endpoints are included. Multi-tenant platforms must bind tests to one or more test tenants that mirror real configurations without risking cross-tenant visibility. Multi-region deployments should identify the primary region for active exercises and any secondary regions used only for configuration confirmation. When the ROE reads like a map with labeled coordinates, engineers do not need to guess and assessors do not need to improvise, which removes the most common sources of drift. Put timing in writing. Set windows for active testing, note maintenance freezes that protect busy periods, and list blackout dates where only read-only activity is allowed. Testing windows should align with staffing so both sides can respond quickly if behavior surprises anyone. And they should respect downstream obligations like customer support peaks or reporting deadlines. Maintenance freezes do not ban fixes, they channel them through an exception path with approvals and before and after artifacts. Blackout periods exist to keep the lights on during critical events, such as major releases or fiscal close. When the clock is clear, alarms do not masquerade as incidents, and incidents do not masquerade as alarms. Establish notification triggers and real-time communication channels so signals reach people who can act. The ROE should list who is paged before tests begin, who is updated as milestones are reached, and who is called if a stop condition appears. Real-time channels might include a persistent chat bridge for coordination, a video room for demonstrations, and a hotline for escalations that should never wait in a queue. Triggers include start of test notices, threshold crossings for error rates, and unexpected monitoring gaps. By describing how information moves during testing, the ROE prevents the quiet minutes where teams wonder if anyone else is seeing the same thing. Provide credentials, test accounts, and any necessary elevated roles through a least privilege model that time-bounds access. Test accounts should reflect realistic personas: standard user, support operator, and privileged administrator, each with only the rights needed to demonstrate the control in question. Credentials should expire automatically after the window closes, and break glass roles must require multi-party approval with session recording when used. Where possible, rely on federated identities and just-in-time elevation so permanent entitlements never appear. Nothing slows testing like waiting for access. Nothing ruins trust like discovering that access never went away. The ROE solves both by being specific, reversible, and auditable. Require change approvals for high-risk tests and any action likely to be disruptive, and spell out the approval ladder. High risk includes firewall rule flips on shared gateways, identity policy changes that affect broad populations, and key or certificate operations beyond routine rotation rehearsals. The approval path should identify roles, not personalities, with time expectations that match the testing window. Every such test gets a ticket number, a rollback plan, and a defined observation period before declaring success. This turns risky steps into controlled experiments with witnesses, evidence, and a safety net rather than bold gestures that rely on luck. Define how test data and artifacts are handled from cradle to grave so evidence never becomes exposure. The ROE should require synthetic or masked data for demonstrations, prohibit the export of real, personal, or sensitive records, and mandate encryption for any files moved off the boundary for assessor review. Retention should be time-limited, and sanitization steps should be documented and verified, including secure deletion or destruction certificates for any portable media used. Storage locations must be named, access restricted to the few who need it, and access logs reviewed after the window. Evidence should prove controls, not create new incidents. The handling section ensures that promise is kept. Include explicit stop conditions and escalation paths for instability so anyone can freeze the exercise without ceremony. Stop conditions might include error rates above a stated threshold, spikes in latency, unexpected alarms from production monitoring, or signs that a test is impacting tenants or customers. The ROE should empower both assessor and operator representatives to call a halt, and it should define how to capture the moment so root cause can be determined later without finger-pointing. After a stop, the path back to go is documented. Stabilize, review logs, adjust scope if needed, and resume only when both sides agree. This single paragraph can save reputations and weekends. Coordinate with platform and service providers to prevent automated blocking or throttling from turning tests into ghost hunts. If web application firewalls, bot mitigations, cloud access security brokers, CASB, or application programming interface gateways will see the test traffic, pre-register source addresses and user agents where appropriate, or plan for controlled thresholds that will not trigger punitive actions. Similarly, if rate limits exist, describe how they will be respected and how exceptions will be logged for analysis. The point is not to neuter controls, but to avoid false positives that erase the very signal you are trying to observe. Provider coordination turns surprise into instrumentation. Capture logging expectations and monitoring coverage during test execution so observers can correlate cause and effect. The ROE should list which logs must show activity, authentication, authorization, configuration changes, network flows, data access events, and where those logs will be viewed in near real time. Expectations include time synchronization across systems, unique identifiers for test steps, and a run sheet that pairs actions with expected signals. If a signal is missing, that is a finding. If a signal is present but misclassified, that is a tuning opportunity. Logging clarity is what turns a test from a story into a dataset that improves the program tomorrow. Call out the pitfall that sinks many teams. Vague rules of engagement that cause downtime, trigger alarms without context, or expose data unnecessarily. Vagueness invites improvisation, and improvisation under time pressure leads to shortcuts, missing approvals, and friendly fire from automated defenses. The antidote is specificity everywhere it matters. Systems, times, roles, techniques, thresholds, and evidence handling, pairing with autonomy to stop when reality diverges from plan. The ROE is not a legal shield for reckless behavior. It is a practice guide for careful verification. If it is too short to be useful or too long to be read, it will fail in exactly the way you fear. Before testing starts, perform a quick check that carries real weight. Confirm signatures from the sponsor, the cloud service provider, CSP, and the third-party assessment organization, 3PAO. Signatures indicate not just awareness, but accountability, and they resolve later claims that we did not agree to that step. Record dates, version identifiers, and any conditional clauses tied to specific windows or configurations. Make those signatures part of the package that assessors and operators reference daily. A signed ROE shifts the conversation from opinion to obligation and keeps progress moving when nerves rise. To close, the rules of engagement are finalized when objectives are clear, techniques are bounded, systems and windows are defined, channels flow, access is provisioned, approvals are mapped, data handling is safe, stop conditions are written, providers are coordinated, and monitoring is observable. The next action is short and decisive. Distribute the signed ROE to all participants and pin it in the working channels. Then verify receipt by the named points of contact. When everyone is reading from the same page, testing becomes predictable, evidence becomes persuasive, and operations remain intact. The exact balance that a mature program aims to achieve. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.